Imagine a world where more women had the time to fully explore their genius. Welcome to She Rebel Radio, a community-driven podcast dedicated to supporting women to unlearn conventional rules and create businesses of significance. My name is Lulu Minns. I host retreats and create spaces for entrepreneurial women to explore their genius, and today I'm going to create that same space for you, right here on this podcast episode. What are the benefits of bootstrapping a business? What lessons can we learn and what skill sets can we increase as women building and bootstrapping a business? Welcome to episode 97 of She Rebel Radio, Benefits of Bootstrapping. Ladies, here we are continuing our summer series. Last week we explored the accidental versus the intentional entrepreneur. And today I wanted to explore with you the benefits of bootstrapping a business. Now, last week I explained I was an accidental entrepreneur. My parents were accidental entrepreneurs. And there's famous entrepreneurs such as Anita Roddick running the Body Shop was an accidental entrepreneur. And it's likely, in my opinion, for what that's worth, the accidental entrepreneurs are more likely to bootstrap a business. It's something that I grew up in the energy of. It's something that I've learned to do myself, and I've been reflecting recently. It's interesting that when I first started a business, it didn't even occur to me to get investment and funding and support. We've heard from Nat West, who are doing incredible work with our She Rebel Radio's International Women's Day series about the incredible work they're doing to increase funding, venture capital for women in business. It's only 2% of venture capital and investment goes to women in their businesses, and there's lots of incredible work being done there. But I thought it would be really interesting to explore this more traditional way of bootstrapping a business. If women aren't receiving access or even applying for investment, it's likely, therefore, that we are more likely to be bootstrapping our businesses. But how can that be a benefit to us? How can that help us grow and develop? And what skill sets can we learn? And as always, interweaved within this is going to be some of the pitfalls that come up for us as well. Now, when we bootstrap a business, what we're doing is we're using our personal savings, our maybe small loans in our personal names, friends and family, and all of that kind of stuff to help us fund a business to get something off the ground. What we're not doing is getting investment or funding that's outsourced and bringing those people into our business. And we're literally pulling ourselves up by the bootstrap. That's what the saying means. And that indicates that there's some real effort involved with this. But with effort, with that grit and determination, must come some growth and development. And that's what we're going to dive into. So as we did last week, I wanted to explore who are some famous women that have bootstrapped their business. And when I was doing research around this, who came up the most was Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, which I think she has sold that on now and she's a shareholder. But initially she wasn't. She owned that business 100%. She has been deemed worth up to 1.3 billion. And interestingly, she already had the gift of sales. She was working in sales when she came up with the idea of Spanx. I think she was doing door-to-door sales. Her tights were annoying her. We've all been there, ladies, with that. And she just cut off the feet of those tights, and their Spanx became born, a household name, something that Oprah Winfrey has talked about, which massively elevated Sarah Blakely's business. And interestingly, when she started that business, she used $5,000 of her own money to research and patent her products. And she even did her own legal application to patent her product as well. So she was really insourcing all of the resources she had, both financially and also any expertise or intelligence that she could use herself. And she was doing it herself. That sister was doing it for herself. And this story really resonated with me because when I left the legal profession, and I've done lots of my own trademarking and things like that in my business, and I come from the legal profession, but certainly not in that area, I also only had £5,000 in the bank. And I didn't use that. I used that as a real survival strategy rather than actually investing it in something that I really knew was worthwhile. And that's because I started with the wrong business. So that £5,000 was really helpful to me to give me a very small amount of space, but it wasn't something that I was investing. I wouldn't have been brave enough, actually, in reflection, to do that at that time. I was kind of holding on to that money and, seeing whether this business idea that I was putting out there was going to work, which was in the dating industry at the time. It wasn't anything near to what I do now, but I can see how that really naturally developed. So what is the benefits of us doing that, to investing our own money, not using other people's money, not using the energy trying to bring other people's money in? And that's what we're going to dive into for today's episode. So tighten up your bootstraps and stay with me as we dive into these benefits. And the real obvious one here is autonomy. Really, autonomy and control over your own creative direction. As I said, when I started a business, it was actually the wrong business. And I had lots of people trying to sell things to me, use this PR strategy, it will cost X, etc. And I wasn't ready to do that, and it wasn't the right business. But because I wasn't getting any outside investment at that time, and it may be true to say that my idea would have been fully tested and seen as not something that would have worked had I been doing that. But what I was really allowed to do is to grow and evolve, A, at my own pace, and B, to where it is that I wanted to take myself. Business can be a very organic journey. Where you start is often not where you end up. And when we don't have outside investment, we can allow space for that because we're not tied into meeting anyone else's objectives, and we're not tied into impressing them on the actions that we need to take to basically get a return on the money that they've invested. We're not tied into those outcomes that we might have set ourselves at the beginning that are no longer feeling a good fit for us. So we have much more freedom and autonomy and control over our creative direction compared to when we bring that funding in. We have objectives to meet, we've got a quite linear plan, and that may not be a good fit for us for where we're at. So that is a real benefit, that total autonomy over your creative direction. If you want to change things, you can. And that's number 2, adaptability. When you have not got a set chartered course, money to earn back for other people, you can really pivot much more quickly and easily as to what's maybe happening in the outside world, or what may be happening for you personally, financially, creatively, etc. And we've seen a lot of that in the world recently in terms of pandemic, global crisis, etc., that we may need to adapt very quickly. So the old business model, the thing that you committed to if you're seeking investment, may no longer feel a great fit for you. So we've got autonomy, we've got adaptability. And thirdly, we've got full ownership. As I've said, Sarah Blakely, until recently, sold her business, is now just a shareholder. She's not running the business anymore. But before that, she was worth 1.3 billion and she owned 100% of the business. The Body Shop, Anita Roddick, that we shared last week with the accidental versus the intentional entrepreneur, did not own 100% of her business. She actually got investment very early on, which can be unusual for some accidental entrepreneurs. She got investment to open her second shop and did sign quite a large chunk of that business away because of the capital that she needed. So she didn't own, and yes, an amazing success story, but she didn't own 100% of that business. And that is critical for that autonomy, for that adaptability. But that 100% ownership, sometimes we might be taking investment, and we've all seen it, right? We've all seen it on Dragon's Den when they're negotiating about those percentages. How often is it? And I've heard personally from women who have signed half of their business away, and they've signed it away and the businesses either hit the big time, or that person that the silent partner that they've signed up to has become much more involved, has taken aspects of the business. And someone asked me when I was hosting a workshop for a local charity in Brighton recently, is it a good idea to get a business partner? Because we think we can lack either in certain skill set or the investment that we need. And then you can spend the whole time managing that potential relationship instead of it being 100% ownership for you and where it is that you may want to change, because your vision may massively change. Many women go on a massive personal development journey when they start a business. It's not something that we always set out to do. But those of you that have been doing it for a while will really recognise yourselves in that. And actually managing someone else around that is not always what it is that we need. So there's that full ownership as well. Finally, in terms of the benefits, before I talk about, really the skills that we can learn and increase, is grit and resilience. I don't really like the word resilience. I love the word grit. It's one of my true core values, is that we really build grit and resilience because we have to rely 100% on ourselves. As I said, Sarah Blakey of Spanx was doing her own patent applications. She was using her own money. She was fully invested 100% herself and had to, hold onto her hat, pull herself up by the bootstraps, put her big girl pants on that we hear a lot, and really trust in her own direction, because she had to be 100% reliant on herself, which, yes, let's ask for help when we need it, but how often are we asking for help instead of really tuning into ourselves and our own autonomy and what it is that we can actually do for ourselves? And we really do create. I know I've always had a certain degree of grit, but really built a lot of grit and resilience and trust in my business and in myself by this sister doing it herself, by using my own money and investing and, building that. So what are some of the obvious pitfalls here are slowing of growth. And as I shared with you last week, the intentional entrepreneur may be more likely to get outside investment and funding, etc., and be more integrity to their business, whereas an accidental entrepreneur may not do that and be integrity to themselves, but not really their growth pattern, their growth journey. Because what we can do as more accidental entrepreneurs, those that are bootstrapping, instead of getting outside investment or funding, and I've never had any investment or funding apart from for the podcast, which is only in the last 2 years that is something that came up. But without that, I didn't have that. So we can, when you're bootstrapping, you can stay almost in that survival because you're so used to, as I've said, accidental entrepreneur, that integrity to yourself is the business has been born to ensure that your needs are met. So you continue to meet your needs, your basic needs, maybe some of your extra needs, a holiday or whatever, and then you continue to meet your business needs, but perhaps at a basic level. Particularly when we've had the last couple of years of a lot of instability, it can be very difficult to build a business in terms of the growth aspects of the business when we're there. But with a flip side of that as an advantage, as I just spin this off, is that if you want to contract for a short period, you can really do that. So we go back to that adaptability, but we have to acknowledge that when we haven't got that outside investment and support, that it will slow down our growth. It is a slower journey. It is a marathon and not a sprint, or it's both of those things, but we really are we're in it for the long term. Okay, you're in it for the long term, but we have to be able to identify when we're still sitting in that safety and security instead of really making a leap when that may be opening up in our business and we're not doing it because of the financial resources that are not available. So that's the big one. Also, lots of investors, and again, we see this on Dragon's Den, etc. And we've had some of our incredible entrepreneurs who've been on She Rebel Radio, who've been on Dragon's Den, which is super cool. That those entrepreneurs, those investors come with network. They come with network and expertise as well as the money, the investment. So when we're bootstrapping, we have less network and less expertise and less money. But what we can do, those skill sets that we can increase and those lessons that we can learn as women in business, is that we have to create our own network. That's something that I've done massively. When I first left, and lots of people say to me often, oh, you've got a really amazing network. I've built that from the bootstraps, from nothing in the last 8 years. When I left legal practice, I was in criminal defence. LinkedIn wasn't such a thing then either, but I didn't have an account. It certainly wasn't a thing in criminal practice. It was in, more corporate positions. But when I left my job, I had my mobile phone, because I'd bought the actual phone itself, and I had 10 numbers on there that were not of police officers or criminals that I represented or people that were accused of criminal offences, etc. They were family, good friends, the guy I was dating at the time, all of that kind of stuff. So they weren't anyone that I was going to build a business around. So I really had to pull myself up by the bootstraps and get out there. And I look back now and think, God, what an incredible network, and people that I've met just by getting out there, going to networking events, building my LinkedIn. Now I have nearly 7,000 contacts on there. I really got out there and built my own network and didn't rely on anyone else's. And secondly, I also built up my own credit rating. It was always something that I'd been doing anyway, in terms of using credit cards, paying them off, but really, and COVID's not helped many self-employed people with this, and it's been tough for us that we may be moving money around. I've always made sure I have access to capital myself, not relying on anyone else, that if I need it, if I need a lump sum, that I can get it by way of personal loan, by way of credit cards, and the credit that is available to me should I need it. That is a sensible thing to do when you run a business. That is a skill set that you can build. Network and creating access to capital. And they're things that you've got to do. If you have an investor in your business and you're relying on them for all of those things and not doing those things yourself, then you're going to struggle. And as I've said, the lessons that we can learn, that slow doesn't mean bad. It doesn't. It can really mean that you're putting in deep foundations to your business, to what it is that you're doing. So it's been awesome to share with you these benefits: autonomy, adaptability, full ownerships, grit and resilience, as well as these other aspects of skills that you can learn. And if this is something that you want to go deeper with, I would love to invite you to go on our waitlist for Pricing with Integrity, the peer group sessions, which are starting in September. You can find that at lulumins.com/pricing. The link will be in the show description notes below. And we're going to be diving into way more of this stuff, how it is if you have been bootstrapping your business, if you consider yourself more of an accidental entrepreneur, then we can really focus for you and your business and how you can find more integrity to your business, to the actual growth aspects of that. What might that look like for you? It's going to be a really small, intimate group of around 6 to 8 women. We're going to have 3 peer group sessions and a 7-part audio training, exclusive audio content, and we're going to be working together on this stuff. So do apply at lulumins.com/pricing. I would love to see you. It's really for service-based business owners. It's really for those women who have been in their businesses 2 years or more. It's for those of you who are experts in your field, even if you struggle to accept that, even if you're not charging in that way, that you really are, known as a 2 years at least of professional development expertise in your business. It's been amazing to speak to you today. I'm really looking forward to coming back next week, and do share with me, as always, online and elsewhere, what the benefits of bootstrapping your business might have been for you. You've been listening to She Rebel Radio. It's been an honour to support you taking the time to discover more of your genius. If you'd like to attend a retreat or work with me, please do visit lulumins.com and feel free to further the conversation with me and other incredible women on the usual social media platforms.